Hello, trading is closed on May 19th, 2022. Let's start with our disclaimer, go over our calls, make some predictions. It's my trading plan for tomorrow, the 20th. I won't be trading. I have personal business all day, but let's still pretend we'll trade and make some calls. Just remember, I won't be risking any money on this, and if you risk your own money, you do it at your own risk. Look for the pattern with the early low, which is this. Typically, it's a rally day with a high in the final hour. Well, that was the final hour. That was a high. We didn't hold it, and that's negative, but tomorrow's open can substitute for today's close. So if we open here, or at least gap and promptly overtake this high, all that negativity goes away. For right now, though, it's a negative pattern. Tomorrow's pattern should also have the early low. Just a reminder of what we said. We had higher targets. We said if we gapped down smartly, which was possible, that the prices remain but not the time. Just a reminder, I won't be around tomorrow. Well, during the day, MEJT said this rally is false. Gives us a target of 38.89.64. Unless we gap up smartly, that's the call for tomorrow. But I think gapping up smartly is a real possibility. I missed a bar when I did this combo count. I missed this bar. So today was actually bar 13 of DeMark's combo buy signal. That's in alignment with bar 13 of his sequential buy signal. Now, these haven't worked too well on the rallies, but for declines to give buys, they've actually been pretty good. Now, this doesn't have to identify the exact price of the low, but it's supposed to identify the area of the low, and it can identify the price. It doesn't have to, but it can. When you get this, it just means the market's oversold. And when that happens, one of several things happen. One is you correct the oversold condition in terms of price by rallying often smartly. That's the commonest. But you can also correct the oversold condition by consolidating over time, doing nothing. You can actually get more oversold by printing what he calls nine more bars of setup, or you can fail. And if you fail, it usually fails in grand style. So if this does fail, you can crash here. But the commonest thing is to correct the oversold condition by rallying in terms of price. The weekly chart shows we're under the lower Bollinger Band. Prices just don't tend to stay there very long. Well, this is the count we had. This is the low price we were hoping was going to hold, because that's where the timing came in on Carolan's calendar date, spiral calendar date. So you can interpret this as a retest of this low. We've had this horrible collapse yesterday, another drop today, but all these prior lows have held, and all of these lows have held. So we've had 2 days of plummeting, retesting these lows, and all these lows have held. Now that can all change tomorrow. We gap under here, gap under this, then that doesn't work. But for right now, at least that's a positive sign. Now, I'm not exactly certain how to count this, but this could be A. And let's look at what could be wave B. Let's look at this drop. It's possible now to count it as an A, a B, and a C. C has a good fib relationship to A. And if you look at the internals on wave gold C, A and B have good fibs. And if you look at B, there's an ABC with C equal to A. So all the fibs worked. If we stop here and rally right from the opening, if that happens, everything works. Now we do have mixed signals. We'll go over them. Commonest thing is a gap and a prompt move outside today's range. So bulls have a real chance here if they can manage a gap and prompt move outside of today's range on the upside. If that happens, it should have legs. Hasn't happened yet. Tomorrow's pattern has the early low. We could still gap up. It's positive. We gap down, hit lower low, closed over all those lows. Unless we gap and promptly undercut the low today, we should see higher prices regardless of how we close. As we retest last week's low, the bullish the BPSPX, which tells you the percentage of stocks with positive patterns, and new highs versus new lows, both show market improvement, which means far fewer stocks are pulling the averages down on the retest. The price is the same, but fewer stocks are taking us down. We have a DeMark combo buy signal in alignment with the sequential buy. Now with this negative, we have a lower target. Unless we gap up smartly, it's favored to print, but recall MEJT nearly always leaves behind a failed target at major trend changes. So this can be interpreted bullishly if we do rally. If there isn't a failed target, I suspect we're not going to have a major trend change. And now, if we don't hit this, there is one. Today's normally bullish pattern showed early weakness and a failure to close near the day's high. Unless we gap and promptly overtake the high, lower prices should print. Doesn't mean you close lower. So if, and that's an if, we gap up smartly and overtake the high a day, this can be interpreted as a successful test of last week's low. Now that hasn't happened yet. Futures are up slightly as I'm recording this. But if we get that, that's all it would take. It would take gapping up over this high to make this a successful test of last week's low. And with the sentiment indicators, the improvement in breadth, and the DeMark signals, and a multitude of higher MEJT targets, we could have a good rally here. Just remember, if it fails in grand style. So if we don't get that big up move at the open, I wouldn't press my luck. Since I won't be here tomorrow, you can just count on there being a huge move, because whenever I'm not around to play it, the market knows it, and that's when it makes the big moves. So we have a real chance for this low to hold, and if it does, we can go up. Just remember, if it fails big. And that's today's call.